So I hope everybody's well and this video finds you in the best of health. I thought what I'd do today was to talk about misunderstanding and miscommunication. It's something that's coming up a lot in discussions. It's also a video I wanted to record a while ago but just didn't feel right. And today I was looking to record a guided meditation, but instead it just felt right to talk about that. We live in a pretty hyper-connected world, and we have a vast array of ways of communicating. And yet, even with all these tools of communication, we find that miscommunication is at an all-time high. We can read something on an email or a text message and interpret it 20 different ways. A good example of that is the last person to be hung in the United Kingdom. They discovered years later was autistic, and when he had been told to let the policeman have his gun, the exact phrase was "let him have it." He'd interpreted that in his head based on his conditioning and his understanding and background as, shoot the policeman. So he shot the policeman, and it really got me thinking about communication. It's something as well that's coming up a lot in my work, as well as I feel a lot of what I'm talking about is starting to clear. And I'm finding that, I suppose, a way around miscommunication is really just to try and be as present as humanly possible, so that when we're speaking to the other, we can form a real connection, because what we look to do is, in a sense, try and end that duality between the two of us so we can really understand the other. It's a bit like the famous Sufi saying of love is that you take on the attributes of your beloved. It's literally trying to get into that person and trying to understand what it is that they're actually trying to say, trying to understand their prejudices, trying to understand their hopes, their fears, and really connecting with them and creating that connection. But then ultimately looking to collapse that connection as we see that it's really just one communicating with itself. This requires trusting, and it requires patience, and I must admit, patience isn't something I have in bundles. But if we try and be present with somebody as we're speaking with them, and then really try to trust that wherever the conversation is going, because it doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be great conversation, that could lead to further misconceptions, it could lead to further misunderstandings until we actually get to the heart of the matter. I think, Jung talked a lot about faces, and I think in modern society we all wear faces, and one of the places where it's really, really evident is in relationships. When we meet somebody, we put on this image, they put on this image, and then as the mask starts slipping, we realize, well, you're not that person I fell in love with, and they're saying the same thing. But then that's a great opportunity to really start communicating then, and really try to understand each other before obviously the relationship goes further and it starts breaking down. And most of these relationship breakdowns are happening because of miscommunication, because something's been said and it's been understood a different way on the other side. And we see a similar thing in spiritual circles as well, where the teacher can be saying one thing but it's being heard a different way. And by being present and really sitting there and really allowing each other to really communicate and really allowing ourselves to be in that silence, what we may find is that a lot of misunderstandings will just go. And this is something that I've been seeing recently in my work, that recently just with several members of the group, I've been having conversations, and it's now happening that also things I was explaining are just kind of clicking into place. And I think that's what we need, a trusting in the process as well, and a patience as well, because sometimes in our enthusiasm, and I include myself in this, we so want to talk about this stuff, we so really want to get this across and everything, that we just need to get the information out. And I've seen me doing that in previous videos. If we slow ourselves down, if we go into this place of ease, we may find that there's more of a trusting as to what's actually going to come up, and you may find that you say what's needed in order to prevent any misunderstanding. On a side note, I'm really glad I went down that route. I was reminded, in a conversation with a friend, that the way I speak may not be accessible to people for whom English isn't their first language, and again, that was another clearing up of a misunderstanding, of a misconception, because obviously being from the Indian subcontinent, I assumed, I suppose, that people would just be able to, keep up with me and understand what I was trying to say, which is again going back to that point of brought in a real silence, a real trusting, a real patience, and a real thinking about what is it that I'm actually trying to convey here. And all of that can allow ourselves really, prior to the conversation, if we take that attitude, to communicate in such an authentic way that it allows there to be a minimal of misunderstanding. And I think sometimes what we need to do, because we live in such a hyper-connected world and there's such a speed of communication, is to really slow down and to really think about what's actually being said, but then at the same time really trust what you want to say as well. I think sometimes when we don't speak openly and we're in fear of what the other side may think, we create further miscommunication. And maybe that's where we ask ourselves, well, what is it that's bringing up this fear, that's not allowing me to communicate effectively? And to really take some time to think about that. And again, I think that's where trusting comes into it, patience comes into it, and really just slowing down as well. And what you may find is a lot of misunderstandings then just disappear. I suppose, if I look into my own examples in the past, I think a lot of my misunderstandings have come because I haven't really just slowed down and gone in like a bull in a china shop and not really tried to acknowledge how the other person's feeling or what their feelings are or what they want out of the conversation. And it, like I said, it's something that's coming up a lot and it's really occupying my thinking. And it's really making me want to explore the topic as well as to why this is happening more and more. And I suppose with social media, we can only exacerbate, if I've said that right, the problem even more. I'm reminded of a saying, it's an old Arabic saying, and I absolutely love this, and I think it's a wonderful way to live, and it says, speak only if your words are more beautiful than the silence. And I think if we took that as a benchmark, we may find that a lot of what we're saying, that we may say out of anger, we may say because we're frustrated, we may not need to say. And in that silence, what we may find is that this duality between yourself and the other, the apparent opposite, may just really just collapse, or may just melt away. And what we may find is that we're really all trying to say the same thing. We all have the same hopes, aspirations, fears, insecurities. And if we can slow down, if we can slow down, if we can really just be trusting of life and really be patient and really be present in our lives. Sometimes I see people having conversations while they're trying to do something else and trying to multitask about a million different things. And then we wonder why there's this misunderstanding. We wonder why there's this miscommunication. And if we can stop, and I do feel that stopping in this day and age is something quite scary, because it's not something we're accustomed to doing, because we're so accustomed to doing everything at the same time. If we can slow down, if we can allow ourselves to stop, if we can allow ourselves to just be present and just to be here, we may find that in that silence, words will just emanate as and how they need to. And if silence is all that comes out as an answer, well, that's perfectly fine as well. We need to develop confidence there as well. Just prior, to the new year, I was completely silent. I had absolutely nothing to say. And it wasn't disconcerting. It was well, that's fine. That's what's coming up. That's absolutely fine. And now what I find is there is a formulation of ideas. There is more speaking about this topic. There is much more exploration, as to what this reality called life actually is, and its many different facets, and it's absolutely fascinating. But I'm finding that as I try to slow down and really think about this, I'm able to see other aspects of my life as well, and able to really, in a sense, be forewarned, so to speak, rather than just rushing into a situation. So I think if we allow ourselves to just be present in everything that that brings up, even if it means silence, even if it means just really stepping away from all the madness, we may find that we can communicate so much more effectively. We can prevent misunderstandings from happening before they happen by just really being present with the other. And that presence, that calm, really can help us sometimes just to just diffuse many situations and many tensions. As I always say, I think that's all I want to say about that particular topic. Thank you so much for joining me on the video. I'm really enjoying the fact that there's a stream of ideas now that are coming as to what I want to speak about next and next. And I think a lot of the video suggestions I've had will be recorded, but I feel at a time that's appropriate. Like I said, I was looking to record this video many moons ago, but it felt right to record it now with what's happening at this moment in time. So have a great day wherever you are, and thank you so much for watching till the end of the video.